Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 842nd night, she continued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Khalifah the fisherman took up one of the papers and handed it to the Caliph, he said, O piper, what hath come out to me therein? Hide naught thereof. So Al-Rashid received it and passed it on to Jafar and said to him, Read what is therein. He looked at it and said, There is no majesty, and there is no might, save in Allah the glorious, the great. Said the Caliph, Good news, O Jafar, what seest thou therein? Answered the Wazir, O Commander of the Faithful, there came up from the paper, Let the fisherman receive 100 blows with a stick. So the Caliph commanded to beat the fisherman, and they gave him 100 sticks, after which he rose, saying, Allah damn his old bran belly! Are jail and sticks part of the game? Then said O Jafar, O Commander of the Faithful, this poor devil is come to the river, and how shall he go away thirsting? We hope that among the alms deeds of the Commander of the Faithful he may have leave to take another paper, so happily somewhat may come out wherewithal he may succour his poverty. Said the Caliph, By Allah, O Jafar, if he take another paper, and death be written thereon, I will assuredly kill him, and thou wilt be the cause. Answered Jafar, If he die, he will be at rest. But Khalifah the fisherman said to him, Allah ne'er gladden thee with good news. Have I made Baghdad straight upon ye that you seek to slay me? Quoth Jafar, Take thee a paper, and crave the blessing of Allah Almighty. So he put out his hand, and taking a paper gave it to Jafar, who read it and was silent. The Caliph said, Why art thou silent, O son of Yahya? And he answered, O Commander of the Faithful, there hath come out on this paper, Naught shall be given to the fisherman. Then said the Caliph, His daily bread will not come from us. Bid him fare forth from beyond our face. Quoth Jafar, By the claims of thy pious forefathers, let him take a third paper. It may be that it'll bring him alimony. And quoth the Caliph, Let him take one and no more. So he put out his hand and took a third paper, and behold, therein was written, Let the fisherman be given 1 dinar. Jafar cried to him, I sought good fortune for thee, but Allah willed not to thee aught save this dinar. And Khalifah answered, Verily, a dinar for every 100 sticks were rare good luck. May Allah not send thy body health. The Caliph laughed at him, and Jafar took him by the hand and led him out. When he reached the door, Sandal the eunuch saw him and said to him, Hither, O fisherman, give us portion of that which the Commander of the Faithful hath bestowed on thee, while jesting with thee. Replied Khalifah, By Allah, O tulip, thou art right. Wilt thou share with me, O nigger? Indeed, I have eaten stick to the tune of 100 blows, and have earned 1 dinar, and thou art but too welcome to it. So saying, he threw him the dinar and went out, with the tears flowing down the plain of his cheeks. When the eunuch saw him in this plight, he knew that he had spoken sooth, and called to the lads to fetch him back. So they brought him back, and Sandal, putting hand to his pouch, pulled out a red purse, whence he emptied 100 golden dinars into the fisherman's hand, saying, Take this gold in payment of thy fish, and wend thy ways. So Khalifah, in high good humour, took the 100 ducats, and the Caliph's 1 dinar went his way, and forgot the beating. Now, as Allah willed it for the furthering of that which he had decreed, he passed by the mart of the handmaidens, and seeing there a mighty ring where many folks were foregathering, said to himself, What is this crowd? So he brake through the merchants and others, and said, Make way for skipper rapscallion, and let him pass. Then he looked, and he beheld a chest, with a eunuch seated thereon, and an old man standing by it. And Sheikh was crying, O merchants, O men of money, who will hasten and hazard his coat for this chest, unknown contents, from the palace of Lady Zubadat bint al-Qasim, wife of the Commander of the Faithful. How much shall I say for you? Allah bless you all. Quoth one of the merchants, By Allah, this is a risk, but I will say 1 word, and no blame to me. Be it mine for 20 dinars. Quoth another, 50, and they went on bidding one against the other till the price reached 100 ducats. Then said the crier, Will any of you bid more, O merchants? And Khalifah the fisherman said, be it mine for 100 dinars and 1 dinar. The merchants, hearing these words, thought he was jesting, and laughed at him, saying, O eunuch, sell it to Khalifah for 100 dinars and 1 dinar. Quoth the eunuch, By Allah, I will sell it to none but him. Take it, O fisherman. The Lord bless thee in it, and here with thy gold. So Khalifah pulled out the ducats and gave them to the eunuch, who, the bargain being duly made, delivered to him the chest, and bestowed the price in alms on the spot. After which he returned to the palace and acquainted the lady Zubaydah with what he had done, whereat she rejoiced. Meanwhile, the fisherman hove the chest on shoulders, but could not carry it on this wise for the excess of its weight. So he lifted it on his head, and thus bore it to the quarter where he lived. Here he set it down, and being weary sat a while, bemusing what had befallen him, and saying in himself, Would heaven I knew what was in this chest! Then he opened the door of his lodging, and haled the chest till he got it into the closet, after which he strove to open it, but failed. Quoth he, What folly possessed me to buy this chest? There is no help for it, but to break it open and see what is there. So he applied himself to the lock, but could not open it, and said to himself, I will leave it till tomorrow. Then he would have stretched him out to sleep, but could find no room, for the chest filled the whole closet. So he got upon it and lay him down. But when he had lain a while, behold, he felt something stirring under him, whereat sleep forsook him, and reason fled. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 843rd night, she pursued, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Khalifah the fisherman lay down upon the chest, and thus tarried a while, behold, something stirred beneath him, whereat he was affrighted, and his reason fled. So he arose and cried, Meseems there be jinns in the chest. Praise to Allah, who suffered me not to open it. For had I done so, they had risen against me in the dark and slain me, and from them would have befallen me naught of good. Then he lay down again, when lo, the chest moved a second time, more than before, whereupon he sprang to his feet and said, There goes again. This is terrible. And he hasted to look for the lamp, but could not find it, and had it not withal to buy another. So he went forth and cried out, Ho, people of the quarter! Now the most part of the folk were asleep, but they awoke at his cry and cried, What aileth thee, O Khalifah? He answered, Bring me a lamp, for the jinn are upon me. They laughed at him, and gave him a lamp, wherein he returned to his closet. Then he smote the lock of the check with a stone, and broke it, and opening it saw a damsel like Hoary lying asleep within. Now she had been drugged with bhang, but at that moment she threw up the stuff and awoke. Then she opened her eyes, and feeling herself confined and cramped, moved. At this sight, quoth Khalifah, By Allah, O my lady, whence art thou? Quoth she, Bring me jessamine and narcissus. And Khalifah answered, There is naught here but henna flowers. Thereupon she came to herself, and considering Khalifah, said to him, What art thou? Presently adding, And where am I? He said, Thou art in my lodging. Asked she, Am I not in the palace of Caliph Harun al-Rashid? And quoth he, What manner of thing is al-Rashid? O madwoman, thou art naught but my slave girl. I bought thee this very day for 100 dinars and 1 dinar, and brought thee home, and thou wast asleep here in this chest. When she heard these words, she said to him, What is thy name? My name is Khalifah. How comes my star to have grown propitious, when I know my ascendant to have been otherwise? She laughed and cried, Spare me this talk. Hast thou anything to eat? Replied he, No, by Allah, nor yet to drink. I have not eaten these 2 days, and am now in want of a morsel. She asked, Hast thou any money? He said, No. Allah keep this chest, which hath beggared me. I gave all I had for it, and I have become bankrupt. The damsel laughed at him and said, Up with thee, and seek of thy neighbours somewhat for me to eat, for I am hungry. So he went forth and cried out, Ho, people of the quarter! Now the folk were asleep. But they awoke and asked, What aileth thee, O Khalifah? Answered he, O my neighbours, I am hungry, and have nothing to eat. So one came down to him with a bannock, and another with a broken meats, and a third with a bittock of cheese, and a fourth with a cucumber, and so on till his lap was full. And he returned to his closet, and laid the whole between her hands, saying, Eat. But she laughed at him, saying, How can I eat of this? I have not a mug of water wherein to drink. I fear to choke with a mouthful and die. quoth he, I will feel thee this pitcher. So he took the pitcher, and going forth stood in the midst of the street, and cried out, saying, Ho, people of the quarter! Quoth he, What calamity is upon thee tonight, O Caliph? And he said, Ye gave me food, and I ate, but now I am thirst, so give me to drink. Thereupon one came down to him with a mug, and another with a ewer, and a third with a gugglet, and he filled his pitcher, and bearing it back, said to the damsel, O my lady, thou lackest nothing now. Answered she, True, I want nothing more at this present. Quoth he, Speak to me, and say me thy story. And quoth she, Fie upon thee! And thou knowest me not. I will tell thee who I am. I am Kut-al-Kulub, the Caliph's handmaiden, and the lady Zubaydah was jealous of me. So she drugged me with bang and set me in this chest, presently adding, Alhamdulillah, praise be God for that the matter hath come to easy issue and no worse. But this befell me not save for thy good luck, for thou wilt certainly get of the Caliph al-Rashid money galore that will be the means of thine enrichment. Quoth Khalifah, Is not al-Rashid he in whose palace I was imprisoned? Yes, answered she. And he said, By Allah, never saw I more niggardly white than he, that piper little of good and wit. He gave me 100 blows with a stick yesterday, and but 1 dinar for all of it. I taught him to fish, and made him my partner, but he played me false. Replied she, Leave this unseemly talk, and open thine eyes, and look thou, bear thyself respectfully, when as thou seest him after this, and thou shalt win thy wish. When he heard her words, it was as if he had been asleep and awoke, and Allah removed the veil from his judgment because of his good luck, and he answered, On my head and eyes. Then said he to her, Sleep in the name of Allah. So she lay down and fell asleep, and he afar from her till the morning, when she sought of him ink case and paper. And when they were brought him to Ibn al-Qurnas, the Caliph's friend, acquainting him with her case, and how at the end of all that had befallen her, she was with Khalifah the Fisherman, who had bought her. Then she gave him the scroll, saying, Take this, and hie thee to the jewel market, and ask for the shop of Ibn al-Qurnas, the jeweler, and give him this paper, and speak not. I hear, and I obey, answered Khalifah, and going with the scroll to the market, inquired for the shop of Ibn al-Qurnas. They directed him thither, and on entering he saluted the merchant, who returned his salam with contempt, and said to him, What dost thou want? Thereupon he gave him the letter, and he took it, but read it not, thinking the fisherman a beggar, who sought an alms of thee, and said to one of his lads, Give him 1/2 dirham. Quoth Khalifah, I want no alms, read the paper. So Ibn al-Qurnas took the letter and read it, and no sooner knew its import than he kissed it, and laying it on his head. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased her permitted say. Now, when it was the 844th night, she resumed, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Ibn al-Qurnas read the letter and knew its import, he kissed it and laid it on his head. Then he arose and said to Khalifah, O my brother, where is thy house? Asked Khalifah, What wantest thou with my house? Wilt thou go thither and steal my slave girl? Then Ibn al-Qurnas answered, Not so. On the contrary, I will buy thee somewhat whereof you may eat, thou and she. So he said, My house is in such a quarter. And the merchant rejoined, Thou hast done well. May Allah not give thee health, O unlucky one. Then he called out to the 2 slaves and said to them, Carry this man to the shop of Moshin the sheriff, and say to him, O Moshin, give this man 1,000 dinars of gold, then bring him back to me in haste. So they carried him to the money changer, who paid him the money, and returned with him to their master, whom they found mounted on a dapple she-mule worth 1,000 dinars, with Mamelukes and pages about him, and by his side another mule like his own saddled and bridled. Quoth the jeweler to Khalifah, Bismillah, mount this mule. Replied he, I won't, for by Allah I fear she throw me. And quoth Ibn al-Qurnas, By God, needs must thou mount. So he came up, and mounting her, face to crupper, caught hold of her tail and cried out, whereupon she threw him on the ground, and they laughed at him. But he rose and said, Did I not tell thee I would not mount this great jinni ass? Thereupon Ibn al-Qurnas left him in the market, and repairing to the Caliph, told him of the damsel, after which he returned and removed her to his own house. Meanwhile, Khalifah went home to look after the handmaid, and found the people of the quarter foregathering, saying, Verily, Khalifah is today in a terrible pickle. When we knew whence he had gotten this damsel, quoth one of them, he's a mad pimp. Happily he found her lying on the road, drunken, and carried her to his own house, and his ampus showed that he knoweth his offence. As they were talking, behold, up came Khalifah, and they said to him, What a plight is thine own happy? Knowest thou not what is come to thee? He replied, No, by Allah. And they said, But just now there came Mamelukes, and took away the slave girl whom thou stolest, and sought for thee, but found thee not. Asked Khalifah, And how came they to take my slave girl? And quoth one, Had he fallen in their way, they had slain him. But he, so far from heeding them, returned running to the shop of Ibn al-Qurnas, whom he met riding, and said to him, By Allah, 'twas not right of thee to wheedle me, and meanwhile send thy Mamelukes to take my slave girl. Replied the jeweler, O idiot, come with me and hold thy tongue. So he took him and carried him into a house handsomely built, where he found the damsel seated on a couch of gold, with 10 slave girls like moons around him. Sighting her, Ibn al-Qurnas kissed ground before her and said, What hast thou done with my new master, who bought me with all he owned? He replied, O my lady, I gave him 1,000 gold dinars, and related to her Khalifah's history from first to last, whenas he laughed and said, Blame him not, for he is but a common wight. These other 1,000 dinars are a gift from me to him, and Almighty Allah willing, he shall win of the Caliph what shall enrich him. And as they were talking, there came a eunuch from the commander of the faithful, in quest of Kut-al-Kulub, for when he knew that she was in the house of Ibn al-Qurnas, he could not endure the severance, but bade bring her forthwith. So she repaired to the palace, taking Khalifah with her, and going into the presence, kissed ground before the Caliph, who rose to her, saluting and welcoming her, and asking her how she had fared, and with whom had bought her. She replied, He is a man, Khalifah, the fisherman hight, and there he standeth at the door. He telleth me that he hath an account to settle with the commander of the faithful, by reason of a partnership between him and the Caliph in fishing. Asked Al-Rashid, Is he at the door? And she answered, Yes. So the Caliph sent for him, and he kissed ground before him, and wished him endurance and glory and prosperity. The Caliph marveled at him and laughed at him, and said to him, O fisherman, wast thou in very deed my partner yesterday? Khalifah took his meaning, and heartening his heart and summoning spirit, replied, By him who bestowed upon thee the succession to thy cousin, I know her not in any wise, and have had no commerce with her save by way of sight and speech. Then he repeated to him all that had befallen him since he last saw him, whereat the Caliph laughed, and his breast broadened, and he said to Khalifah, Ask of us what thou wilt, O thou who bringest the owners their own. But he was so silent. So the Caliph ordered him 50,000 dinars of gold, and a costly dress of honor, such as great sovereigns don, and a she-mule, and gave him black slaves of the Sudan to serve him, so that he became as he were of the kings of that time. The Caliph was rejoiced at the recovery of his favorite, and knew all this was the doing of his cousin wife, Lady Zubaydah. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased saying her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of this tale, till it be morrow.